Answers of an Alien from Andromeda, Video 151, June 30, 2017. Matthew Words. Hello friends. I know it took me quite a while to be able to chat and talk, but I was with CB a few times during this time, as he also went through a troubled period in recent months. A lot is happening different, much more than you could imagine. We had a major decision by the Atlanticobr board to approve the deployment of a pilot colony on the planet Mars, that is, Mars will be used as a cosmopolitan place in your solar system. We have transferred a lot of equipment and we have been installing a large infrastructure for people and ships in a place that I can publish in due course. Approximately 500 Manchig volunteers are working there, and another 1,500 volunteers are expected to be transferred these days. This news was particularly celebrated by our crew, which will be permanently allocated to the local fleet, based on our new first colony from our galaxy. The great news is that we will be officially neighbors, and we will be able to be in permanent contact after the opening of official contacts between your planet and the CG. With this approach of our civilizations, we will be able to participate more actively in the implementations of technologies for this new colony level 1. Your governments and your elites are under great pressure, and seem to be adapting to various demands suggested by the Council of this regional CG, otherwise they will pass from demands to forced imposition, which will lead the Pleiadians and the Arcturians to take more drastic measures. It was approved the implementation of a transport portal in Antarctica, already preparing the planet to have its own portal in the near future for receiving and sending of spacecraft and goods, and smaller regional portals may be approved, to facilitate the circulation of ships of service. As you can see, changes are happening and adapting to them will be gradual between your various ethnicities. After a subpoena from the CB, I will now stay a little to answer some questions. Let's go to them. Mithy, you describe blue beings as living in the hereafter 4D aura of our planet from where they welcome departed souls for debriefing before going back, describing this aura as having lower layers sometimes intuitively accessed by 3D lucid dreamers and meditators. How many are there of those layers, and what are the physical rules and perceptions in each? What about time? Are the higher CG level breeds able to communicate in some ways with blue beings from the planets and co-evolution collaboration there? C. Dives, these levels I referred to are as if you imagine the layers of your atmosphere, the gases become more rarefied the higher you are. There are no perfectly defined levels as boundaries, there is the quantum density of the denser environment in the first layers and more fluidic in the higher layers. The accesses seen by third-dimensional meditators are often confused, echoes of events and thoughts reverberating between these layers. Direct contacts with specific people even in the closest layer of this fourth dimension zone are extremely rare, since the two communication points would need to be tuned to each other in the same time period, a rare occurrence. From level 8 there are possibilities of communication with blue beings, but these contacts do not have a real practical sense, since there is no real interaction between the two dimensions. Mithy, I'm sure they are very old and wise, and it's almost pointless to measure the body's age when you can remember the accumulated knowledge of past lives, and only need to be concerned about retiring the vessel when it is seriously outdated. However, out of curiosity dear Mithy, approximately how old are the oldest members of the CG in Earth years? Shine, longevity is an option. If you want to keep your old scars from nostalgia you can live for 500 years without problems. There are old leaders up to 600 years old among CG councils who choose to stay, because they are very well known and would waste a lot of time recycling themselves into babies in order to get back active. Mithy, can you tell us more about the 5,000-year-old Kokno stone, which contains around 90 intricate spirals and intentions that, according to some authors, represent an ancient cosmic map? Discovered in 1887, the mystery stone remained buried for decades in order to protect it from vandalism. Elvis, these rock drawings were made by your ancient civilizations that represent the chronological record, with the resources of the time, of the movements of the visible celestial bodies of your planet. Many of these schemes were made by their scholars at different times, some of them representing decades of laborious observational work. Mythi, many of us have experienced visits from beings of unknown origin in our past. Some experiences are different, while many others are quite similar. In my experience, the being appeared like a dark rippling mass of energy. Can you explain what people, like in my experience, are seeing? How are these visits performed? Do they detach their quantum energy from the body and visit that way? Or is there some other method we can't quite fathom? Shine, probes of identification, analysis and observation can be seen in different ways, depends only on the momentary sensitivity of the observer. Sometimes in specific cases of controlled experiences with some chosen, you may observe various humanoid forms, depending on your level of perception because they normally use invisibility techniques. Some of you may sense these humanoids even though they are almost imperceptible, and over time they can be seen more and more clearly, as long as there is no fear or great anxiety involved in the process. Sometimes interactive holographs are used, which can touch, see and smell the environment as if it were the operator in person. These holographs are formed of acting molecules and therefore have a fourth-dimensional component which is mass. Mythi, you mentioned that your home planet uses direct current. How is it generated? Do you use the difference in potential between your ionosphere and the planet, or some type of quantum generator? How is it distributed from where the current is produced? Through the air, or some kind of alloy wire which has zero resistance? Or are the units small and located on site? Michael Norton, we have units like the ones you call batteries here, but they are composed of quantum-programmed materials and they recharge automatically and have almost unlimited durability. There are several of them, but one of the smaller ones would be enough to feed a block of houses like the ones you have here. These units are free and anyone can request as many as they need without problems. At Manchik they opted for non-air pollution with such high power transmission frequencies. Mythi, I would love to ask about Antarctica and the discovery of aliens who were flash frozen and are now being excavated secretly by the government, without giving us any disclosures. Kathleen, your governments have unearthed many artifacts from ancient civilizations that lived on that continent, but we do not have records of alien bodies being withdrawn in this process of exploitation. There are bodies of frozen humanoids still in various locations below the ice, but all belonging to ancient local tribes, including animals of the time. Mythi, when scanning this volunteer group, do you ever come across anomalies and individuals that surprise you or your crew? Perhaps maybe we are all very predictable? Andrew, you are well enough known that there are no surprises. The scan reveals levels of active intelligence, specific composition of DNA and degree of emotional behavior, among some other peripheral items. Mythi, the Earth is now on the same side of the Sun as Jupiter and Saturn, and they seem to be pulling Earth a little farther away from the Sun, which happens every 400 years for about 100 years and leads to mini ice ages such as we experienced in the 1600s, according to Cliff High. Can you please enlighten us on this observation? Thomas, there is rather an interaction between the planets of the system causing orbital distortions. These interactions are small and hardly cause catastrophic effects, even though the spin differences also represent a gyroscopic inertial energy factor that minimizes these effects. There may be a slight drop in temperature, but nothing that is drastic like an ice age. Mythi, on the territory of Russia, in the north, from a bird's eye view, you can see smooth long lines that pass through a dense forest. These are the lines on which the trees do not mystically grow. Wild taiga, where there is no shelter, no roads. These lines are many, they stretch straight for many kilometers through the forest, ponds and swamps. What are they? What are they for? There is a theory that 300 years ago there was a nuclear war. In the north of Siberia there was no forest, so was the forest planted artificially? Sergei, this is a visible example but you have no idea of the work that has been done several times for the maintenance of the planet. Many reforestations have already been carried out, as will be done at Antarctica when the time comes. They are equipment that can work unnoticed, recover the soil with a balanced remineralization for the region and sow the species that should be better suited in that region. At the point of rolling the equipment, the process does not happen, generating lines where the vegetation does not advance. The Orion Togs are experts in these processes of recovery of large areas. No atomic war has had an effect in the last few thousand years on the planet. Dear Mithy, there's a story about an archaeological discovery in Russian Siberia near Kemerovo city, latitude 55 degrees 1959, longitude 86 degrees 0459. A white woman, 180 centimeters height, with long blonde hair and open blue eyes, a beautiful princess in a beautiful dress up to the knees, was buried in a special sarcophagus filled with pinkish blue liquid. She looked alive in the liquid, but her body started to die without it. At her head was a black, rectangular metal box. They say the body was at least 800 million years. Do you have some information about it? Polly, there were several civilizations developing on this planet. Colonies of Pleiadian origin lived in these regions where Russia is nowadays. Large rock walls surrounded their cities to prevent the entry of large reptiles that were in turn hunted by reptilians, races that visited the planet regularly. These people buried with active quantum fluid were important and well-liked people, and their preservation was a gift from men, or so that personified image could last through the ages. Several remain buried in that region. Mithy, there is evidence that extraterrestrial races were helping humans during World War II. Can you share the details of what you know of that aid, please? Pavel, as I mentioned before, there was help to the Germans to develop some technologies of superconductivity, anti-gravity techniques, etc. But when they detected the bellicose extension of the uses given of these technologies, stopped immediately to cooperate technologically. Pleiadians probes were monitoring and recording the entire conflict, but were not authorized for any direct interference. Mithy, did you ever see one or few of our chat members, besides the captain? If yes, then who? Thank you. Yes, Taddy, I know some from a distance, remotely. The only one I interact with today is CB, meaning I do not communicate directly with anyone else on the planet. And even with him, I have failed to see sometimes. The people that CB chooses to assist in coordinating those interested in our conversations, these are usually more verified and observed than most. Mithy, about Venus, will it remain hotter than Earth from its orbit, or will it be climate controlled? What will the gravity be like compared to Earth's? Will it be humanoid only or free to all like Mars? Also, according to our scientists, Venus rotates anti-clockwise. Is there any truth to it, and how the wrong direction of rotation may affect inhabitants of the planet? Mikhail, do not worry about Venus for now. It will be greatly modified during the cooling down and stabilization of the habitable crust and the recomposition of its atmosphere, balancing of water volumes, etc. Venus must take at least a century more to have its first colonies of animals, plants and humanoids implanted. Venus will be a humanoid planet, its gravity and temperature will be balanced by its atmospheric density, and its sense of rotation will in no way affect the locals. Dear friend, I, and many others, would like to know more about Atonians, the mother race of the Slavic genetics. Where are they home planet or region, what is their level, and do they come and visit or check participants who have incarnated here, their appearance, clothing, and some social characteristics, please? Thank you in advance. Yurish, the Atonians of Andromeda and some colonies of Orion donated genetic material to the Atlantis, some Egyptian sub-ethnicities, and this material was modified in several anatomical aspects, so that they could resemble other ethnicities living here. Descendants of cultures like Lemurians, Atlantis, Saxus, Egyptians, Caucasians of Russia, ended up miscegenating with the passage of time, and this formed several other regional ethnicities in counterpart. The original Atonians dressed in robes, and at the time were levels 3 and 4. They are elegant, 1.80 to 2.0 meters tall, and women are very feminine and delicate. Andromeda's Atonians have elongated skull, but the Atonian colony of Orion has the skull within your standards, just a little bigger. Atonians' ships from Orion usually circulate around here, but the details of what they do are a peculiarity of them. Mythi, are the suns inhabited by blue beings? Or any other beings? Not Abraham, even your folk demons would refuse to live there. Mythi, we have found an artifact melting out of the ice on Greenland. It measures around 50 miles long. Can you tell us what it is? Where it comes from? How old is it? Why is it there? Are there any more of them? Eric, the image is interesting, but we have no record about it in our database. It can be an eventual image overlay. Friends, an old thought. When we touch something, we leave our fingerprints. When we touch the lives of people, we leave our identity. Life is good when you are happy. But life is much better when others are happy because of you. Nothing in nature lives for itself. Rivers do not drink their own water. The trees do not eat their own fruit. The sun does not shine to itself. And the flowers do not spread their fragrance for themselves. Living for others is a rule of nature. We are all born to help each other. It does not matter how difficult the situation in which you are, keep doing good. I hope to see you all soon. Be safe, everyone.